This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
Yes, Resource Centre, good afternoon. This is Freda Liu. Today, our discussion is on the business of education. How will the education business gain more from the international market? And what are the steps we can do or make to move up the rankings? I'm here with Wan Ahmad Saifuddin Wan Ahmad Radzi, the CEO of UNITAR International University. And I know, very recently you all went through a rebranding exercise.
Yes, we did.
Why did you do that?
I think UNITAR has gone through a couple of changes. It is one of the first private universities in Malaysia. It was known as UNITAR since 1997. There was a rebranding exercise when it changed its name to UNIRAZA in 2007. And then there was a decision by Yayasan Pintar, who owned UNIRAZA, to split two campuses in 2011. It's a bit complicated. It was then renamed as Tech, and everybody was asking who's Tech. So when Aquinas acquired UNITAR, so we felt there's a huge need to rebrand. There's a lot of brand equity within the name UNITAR itself. So we decided to change it back to UNITAR, but add the name International to show our aspiration.
Right. And this was a role as a CEO you took on over a year ago, slightly over a year ago.
Just over.
What was the rebranding that was done internally? Because otherwise it's just a name change.
Sure. I think firstly there has to be mindset change internally. I mean, the university has to feel that there's a lot that it can achieve on its own. We have to be more efficient. We have to be differentiated. And we went through a whole number of exercises going through what was the strategic direction of the university, and to ensure that buy-in is high internally. So once that was done internally, I think in parallel we had to then also focus how we were perceived externally. So on 18th October 2012 we launched the new name. The minister of the time, Datuk Seri Khalid Nordin, launched us. But more importantly, it's not just name change, it's a whole, if you like, cultural attitude change. You know, we have to do things different, we have to do things better. And I think we're on a good trend at the moment.
Right. What was, you said you did a couple of strategic exercises to get that buy-in internally. What were some of the things you did?
There was a quotation, okay, let me get this right, Ghanaian quotation, for somebody from Ghana, that says, in order to you need to look at the past in order to reclaim your future. So we didn't want to start from scratch. UNITAR already had a history. So one of the things that UNITAR used to do very well was e-learning, for example. It was the first virtual university in Malaysia. And it even became a UN case study for e-learning. So that's one of the things we wanted to further explore, is that accessibility to learning, that you can be almost anywhere in the country and eventually anywhere in the world and still access UNITAR degrees, diplomas, etc. So we currently re-strengthening our ability to provide that. Of course, internally, sustainability, we had to, make better our processes, make sure we do things well, with a special focus on teaching and learning. Because I believe, in the end, the best differentiator with any other university is that we have excellent teaching and learning. That happens.
Where are your where are your lecturers from?
Mainly from Malaysia. We do have some international staff coming in from various backgrounds. I think one of the things we're trying to do is increase the number of industry-based people into the teaching staff. And we do this by a couple of ways. Some we try to take in full-time.
Some are adjunct.
And some are adjunct, or some even part-time that can contribute. I think there's a lot that you can learn from people who are still in industry. So sometimes you don't want to take away from their jobs, so that they can bring things that's relevant today to the classroom.
Okay, so at the moment the university is still catered largely to local students?
Yes, we have about 9,000 students. Currently only a very small percentage, I think about 2%, are international students. We do want to increase. The absolute number currently is just under 200. We do want to increase this to about 1,000 students by the end of next year.
Okay, so the ratio will be 1 to 5.
That's the ultimate target.
Okay.
That's the intermediate target. I would say. As we go along, the international markets we want to go for.
Okay, what markets are you targeting specifically, and what are you doing to attract them to join UNITAR?
I recently went on a road trip to actually see for myself, and I think the perception of Malaysian education on the Middle Eastern and Northern African market is very significant. Just to give you an example, I think about 8 to 10 years ago, there were probably about 50 Yemenis in the country undertaking education. Now you have about 7,000.
Right.
That's just from one country. So I think there's a lot of compatibility between MENA market and Malaysia. I think, of course, on one level, it is the having mosque and halal meat, etc., does play a role. But really, I think Malaysia or private education actually having English as a language matters a lot, because sometimes they use Malaysia as a stepping stone to other developed countries, but a lot of them end up finishing their degree with us. And I think that's a good start, and I think the government's very, very serious. I think some statistics, we're currently the 11th largest exporter of education in the world.
Really?
We've got about 93,000 international students from 100 countries. The aim is by 2020 to increase to about 200,000. So I think things are on the right trend again.
Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about world university rankings in just a moment, and how this reflects with, Malaysia as an attractive education destination. I'm here with Wan Ahmad Saifuddin Wan Ahmad Radzi, the CEO, UNITAR International University Resource Centre, BFM 89.9.
Blues, folk, metal. BFM 89.9.
It's Resource Centre, and today is the business of education. Wan Ahmad Saifuddin Wan Ahmad Radzi, the CEO of UNITAR International University here. Recently, they went through a rebranding exercise and just trying to position themselves a little bit differently. And we were talking about your plans to make this to increase the ratio of foreign students. And you said that there was a bigger following with the Middle Eastern and North African students. Now, this in the current QS World University rankings, UNITAR is not listed out of 873 universities worldwide, compared to Singapore, which is ranked 25, and 156 for Now, if we zoom it down to Asian universities, it was also not featured at all, and that's out of 300 universities. How can we change that picture?
Okay, first I think we have to understand how rankings are done. The focus of rankings tend to have a fairly high weightage to research and development. Within the Malaysian context, I think this is where the focus of public universities are. They've got the grants, they've got the capability to do research. If you compare to private university, our top line and our bottom line really depends on student fees. Therefore, one way to put it is, are you a research university or are you a teaching university? Most private universities, I would say, are under the teaching university. That said, it's not that we don't do research. I think, for example, we have undertaken research, but with an industry focus. I think private universities have to focus on employability, because employability is what sells and gets the other students in. At the same time, to do employability, your relationship with industry has to be very good. So if I were to do research, and if my university is to do research, we say focus on our partners. Recently, we did a bit of research with Maxis as part of the queue management system,
right.
And that's been fairly well received. And I think we'd like to do the same with our other partners as well.
Do you think there's a spillover effect, though, when you think of universities in Malaysia, and even though that's not a research university, by comparison, you make that comparison when you think about Singapore universities, and even though private universities, there's an association with Singapore. You are a graduate from Cambridge, right? And that whole idea that, okay, UK education must be pretty good because there's Cambridge and Oxford there. Do you think this will have an effect on attracting these foreign students to join UNITAR?
Okay, two things. First, I think you do have to have a good brand. I mean, Cambridge and Oxford has been around for hundreds of years, and they have that advantage of having a long tradition. Malaysia, in spite being, if you like, a fairly recent entry relatively to the rest of the world, have managed to pull in a lot of international students. So I think there's some things that we are doing right.